are. So Senator Moody.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Charter and your team for coming today and for your wonderful answers. Very data-driven. I'm going to just ask for a little bit slightly different take on data. I'm wondering if you can shed some light on a demographic difference that you may have come across in the makeup between full-time employees and part-time employees or temporarily federally regulated employees. Do you have that kind of breakdown? I'm trying to get at that other group that may be actually smaller groups of individuals, perhaps socioeconomically challenged individuals, through trying to understand the difference between full-time and part-time employment and the impact of this of the minimum wage on these groups differentially.
Thanks very much for your question. I'm afraid I don't have on hand data about the impact with respect to full-time or part-time employees. I might ask my colleague Sebastian St. Arnaud, who's also with me, whether he has something, but I suspect we probably don't. Sebastian, can you confirm that we do or don't have that on hand?
No, unfortunately, we don't have this data for part-time versus full-time data.
Okay, thank you.
My apologies.
No problem. I'm going to ask another question that's related to the figure of $15. The expert panel on modern federal labor standards 2019 report made a recommendation or proposed that federal minimum wage should be linked to the provincial 60% of the provincial median of wages, or to 60% of all Canadians' median wages. When you look at the number of $15 for a minimum wage, proposed minimum wage, falls short of what that median might be. Why was this number chosen?
Certainly, I'm happy to answer that question. And I guess first I'd say, as you mentioned, the expert panel recommended setting the the new minimum wage rate as a percentage, 60% of either federal or also provincial or territorial minimum wages. Of course, we set the minimum wage at $15 per hour and index that to the consumer price index. What I would say is in their final report using 2018 data at the time, the panel did calculate that 60% of the median wage at that time with that data did equal 15. But as you pointed out, using newer data, it may not equal 15 at this point. I don't have figures on hand specifically for what the calculation of the current median wage is. I pointed to in a previous answer a number of reasons for setting the rate at 15, including the minister's mandate commitment and also what we heard during consultations about a federal minimum wage, or even specifically about a $15 minimum wage, including stakeholder campaigns, and also the recommendation of this panel who recommended a freestanding federal minimum wage, not your panel, but the expert panel on modern labor standards, who recommended a federal minimum wage, freestanding federal minimum wage index to inflation. And maybe I could just also add that we set the rate at 15 for the reasons I described, and also are indexing it to the consumer price index. And I might just add that there's a trend across provinces right now to automatically adjust minimum wages based on indexing formula. And provinces like Manitoba, New Brunswick, Newfoundland and Labrador, Nova Scotia, Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Yukon, they all index their minimum wages to the consumer price index so that they rise with inflation and the cost of living. And so this approach we're taking would align with that. And although our rate is set at $15 per hour, there's also provisions where if there's a provincial or territorial rate, like, for example, in Nunavut, that's higher at 16, likely to take into account the cost of living, that under these changes, that rate would prevail and those employees would get that minimum wage rate in that jurisdiction.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Sénatrice Moody. Did you have another question? Okay. So, on continue avec la sénatrice Miji. J'aimerais
Senator Meji, I just want to make sure that Senator Charter can indeed hear the simultaneous interpretation.
Charter, if you don't get translation, please let us know. Sénatrice Miji. Oh. Est-ce que ça fonctionne?
Can you hear me? Yes, is that okay, Senator Meji? Yes, should I proceed? Yes, please proceed. And if there are any problems,